You're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. Unleash the geek in you.
Hello and welcome to Geekcast Radio. This is episode 294. I am, of course, TFG1Mike. And today, folks, we have to expose a bunch of stuff. And as I said in the last episode, I am trying to go in the way with this podcast, talking about geeky things, but broaching topics we normally don't. And sometimes a fun conversation has to be had that is probably going to be a hard conversation for some people to hear.
Houston, we have a problem.
So yes, with that said, I welcome longtime friend, longtime podcaster, Mr. Tom Deja. Hello, sir.
Hello, and I want to let everybody know I thank Mike for giving me the platform he's about to give me, but he is not to be pilloried for any of the opinions that are expressed by myself. If I'm pissing you off, you know where to find me.
At Nocturne Tom on Twitter.
You can get me through Two True Freaks or the ATW. There are plenty of ways to get to me. Don't harass him for what I'm about to say.
So, in other words, folks, the Geekcast Radio Network is not responsible for anything Tom DJ says in the next hour or so. However, I will say that it feels like you people should be listening to this as you're better off in the dark.
Yeah. Like George Carlin, I am now officially an old fuck, which means I can say whatever I want. I just hope I'm going to die in a couple of years. But
so you had messaged me on Facebook.
I know that you wanted to do an episode revisiting that thing that nobody paid attention to called the Modern Fandom Manifesto.
I tried to get people to pay attention to it.
I know. But it's in fact, if anything. And I think this is just part of the entire coarsening and decaying of society as a whole. I think fandom has gotten kind of worse since I posted that in, what was it, 2015, 2016?
Yep. And we did that podcast 3 years ago in 2019.
So it's been a while. It's so yeah. It has gotten a lot worse, and you guys need to hear some truths. I don't know where to start, though. Do we want to start
what I was going to say was, when you messaged me about this, and I actually said this to kind of preface it at the end. So the last episode of the podcast was basically me announcing that the Geekcast Radio podcast, the main flagship show for the whole network, we've done big things our entire, we've talked about Batman as a character, we've talked about franchises, we've talked about this, we've done movie reviews, we have our top 100 countdowns that we do. We do all these big things on the main show. So the main show doesn't have like a weekly schedule or anything. It's whenever something big comes up.
Right.
And like you said, I had said to you, hey, do we need to update this? Do we need to change it? Do we want to revisit it? Whatever. And when I was teasing the thing, I read to Steve on the last episode what one of your messages to me was, which is, among the things that you want to talk about is how Batman is not an aspirational figure.
Huh? That's right.
That's right. Yeah, no, I agree with that part, because I have a whole thing on that in a second. How nostalgia is being used as a tool to keep us stagnant as a society, and how we are not allowing society to and pop culture to evolve. So getting things out of the way on my end.
Okay.
I live on nostalgia because I would rather go back and watch something I had already seen than try to get invested in something new that never gets a chance. I have gotten burnt out on so many TV shows that have gotten one season and nothing ever happens after that. And yet I could give a shit less about Game of Thrones, which has like 7 seasons, whatever. So that's where I'm coming from on this. Your opinions are your opinions. We kind of disagree on the whole nostalgia thing, whatever, but that's where I come.
You want to quote my friend Brian Zane here.
Mm-hmm.
Like what you like, just don't be a dick.
Exactly.
That's a simple. I respect your right to. Although I would say that one of the reasons why new things aren't allowed off the ground is because somehow we've gotten stalled in 40 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of letting the next generations define their pop culture,
mm-hmm.
we've sat them down and said, no, you're going to like Star Wars. You're going to like. I think the most recent thing that actually has become a mainstay of pop culture is Harry Potter, and Harry Potter is a good 25 years old.
That's scary.
Yeah, exactly. We haven't had anything that has stuck.
And I think also part of this is specifically to, I'm going to say comic book characters, but I will also limit it to Batman. But comic book characters and franchises and other things, it's also because the companies that own these people, that own these things, that own these intellectual properties, want to keep that going. They don't want to create something new when they can sell 1,000 Star Wars figures or whatever.
Well, especially when they do try to create something new. It usually gets laughed at or ignored or called one of the worst things ever, because there have been attempts to do new science fiction properties. Mm-hmm. Valerian and the city of 1,000 whatevers.
Right.
Was an attempt to adapt a property that had not been adapted before.
Yeah.
Something new. But no, people weren't interested in that. Jupiter Ascending, the Wachowski sisters film, was something they wanted to do that was original, and nobody wanted it, and everybody called it the worst thing ever. Is it any wonder that they kind of have been sitting in Netflix cable land, licking their own wounds, and only coming out because Warner Brothers says we're going to do a Matrix film with or without you.
And the funny thing is that where we are now is not where we were 40 years ago. 1982, we were, television, VCR, Betamax, whatever, all of that now is streaming. Like, I remember when movie studios were a big deal. Like, huge. You heard 20th Century Fox. You heard Warner Brothers. You heard Paramount. You heard, I'm going to mention studios that aren't even around.
Carolco. And Carolco was a big deal right around the 80s. Renaissance.
Yep.
Studios was a big deal in the 80s. Mm-hmm. Almost all of them are gone because, of course, certain forces in our government have removed antitrust laws to a point where a monopoly could be made.
Yeah,
and it's scary. It is. And guys, understand, Disney is not putting out a new Star Wars thing every month on their platform because they love Star Wars. They're doing it because people will watch it indiscriminately, whether they hate it or love it, and that will give them money. That's all they care about. Is this giving us money? They didn't when they did the Rise of the Skywalker. Mm-hmm. It wasn't because they wanted to apologize for The Last Jedi. And I got some things to say about It was because they wanted people to come back to the theaters, and they figured that was the best way.
Yeah.
Because you guys are so fucking fixated on what your franchise was that you're not willing to let it become what it could be.
Yeah.
That is the thing. When I saw Star Wars, and yes, I'm calling it Star Wars.
Mm-hmm.
It was Star Wars when I went to see it at the RKO Keith in 1977. Fuck you all and your New Hope bullshit. First thing to understand is that it was a standalone film.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't know that it was going to become one of the biggest things ever, and he just made one film.
Mm-hmm.
And I think George Lucas was kind of lucky he got to do that one film because people didn't want to do it.
Yeah.
But then it became popular, and he said, "Okay, I've got I got 2 sequel ideas." He never had a sequel idea for parts 1 and 3, and he never had a sequel idea for parts 7 and 9. Let's get that right out of the way. 1 and 3 is George Lucas from when for circa 1999 trying to give people what they want in Star Wars.
Okay, I want to say something here.
Yeah.
So I'm
sorry.
No. Don't apologize. These are your opinions. That's fine. I just want to interject here because I want to say something. I think I'm about a decade younger I'm turning 42. You're in your mid-50s.
I am going to be 8 this year. Like I said, I'm officially an old fuck.
Okay, so Tom is going to be turning 58 this year. I'm going to be turning 42. So we're X number of whatever behind each other as far as I'm younger than he is.
Yeah.
So when I discovered Star Wars, The Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi was the VHS copies.
Right.
In like the late 80s. I want to say somewhere between 88 and 89, maybe 87 at the earliest. So when I watched those, I remember this vividly, and I know I've said this on this podcast before in the last 13, 14 years, and I've said it on other shows. As a kid in the 80s, watching the 3 of those films together, if I didn't immediately watch Empire, my thought was on Star Wars, wait, that's it? They get medals and they go home? That's it? That's what So, that was me as a kid, and I still feel that way about that film if you look at that film by itself. It kind of ends on, it's a hero's journey, but it ends on this note that is like, yep, everything's okay, everything's going to be fine, whatever, and that's great. For me, since then, I am all about story continuity. So in 1990...
The thing to understand, though, is that he didn't have an Empire ready. But when he wrote Empire, he knew he was going to get at least one more film.
Right.
So he was allowed to create a continuity. He was allowed...
Yeah.
Here's the thing. People these days, when they put together these films, they are more interested in creating the continuity first as opposed to tell a good story. Here's what you do. Star Wars was a good enough story that enough people demanded a sequel, and he made Empire Strikes Back. And it just went on and on. And I think that there's also something to be said about the fact that there were only 3 films for about 10 years.
Right. So
there is a joy in finiteness that people don't understand these days. But anyway, I'm sorry.
So by the time what the hell do they call that stupid trilogy now? The prequels. By the time the prequels came out, I was kind of excited for... At the time, I was 19 years old. I was just graduating high school. I didn't know if I was going to college or not, whatever. And I was still a Star Wars fan. And I still, because I had all these questions and whatever from when I was a kid from the quote-unquote first 3 movies, I wanted to know the story. I wanted to see what the origin was of, whatever, besides the fact of your father killed blah, 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 whatever. And it wasn't The only one of the prequels that I somewhat enjoy, sort of in some sort of weird morbid curiosity way, is Revenge of the Sith, because throughout the entirety of Star Wars, they mention the Clone Wars, they mention this, they mention that. We get barely a glimpse of the Clone Wars in Revenge of the Sith.
Right.
So by the time that trilogy came out, I was like, oh, okay. Well then, I guess that's that. If they had never done another like, I don't need to see what's after Jedi. I had, even if Lucas had an idea of what would happen after Jedi, I did not need to see a 7, 8, 9.
Yeah. But
at that time, after watching Revenge of the Sith, after watching all of this stuff, whatever, and honestly, other than the fact that Rey is the main character in Force Awakens, I could not tell you a damn thing that happens in Force Awakens.
Well, the Force Awakens is basically a soft reboot of.
Yeah.
It is. But the thing is, I'm okay with that, because what that is Disney doing a mission statement saying, we understand what you like.
Mm-hmm.
We understand the world that we are building on here, and I'm fine with that. And what I liked about Last Jedi is that it set things up to go in a new direction.
Yep.
Rian Johnson had ideas on how to take this property into new directions. And oddly enough, Last Jedi is probably the closest in spirit to the original Star Wars than any of the other films. In that Star Wars is the message is basically anybody can be a hero.
Yep.
It's, here's this kid, he's literally out on a farm.
Yep.
And he becomes this great adventurer and does this great thing. He goes on a great, excellent adventure. And at the end of Rian Johnson's Last Jedi, anybody could be a Jedi. Anybody can be a hero.
Mm-hmm.
It's the same message, but no, because the thing is, it's eating its own. Star Wars is eating its own tail, because it's only about even though it was set up to be this wide universe with many different ideas, many different worlds to explore, we are only exploring the same dozen characters over and over and over again. And it's time to stop.
Yeah.
Because we are creating our pop culture is becoming stagnant. It's not being allowed to mutate and breed and become what it could be for the next generation. We're just forcing this next generation. You're going to like Star Wars. Marvel is maybe the only thing, because it was based already on something that was very open world, but even that has become kind of annoying at times. Yeah, I said it.
Lousy luck.
Yeah.
I mean, as much as I thought most of WandaVision was very interesting. It was an interesting exploration about mental illness and PTSD.
Mm-hmm.
It degenerated at the end of here's Elizabeth Olsen and Jessica Hahn throwing fireballs at each other.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't want that. I was perfectly happy exploring Wanda's up and how dangerous it is that somebody with powers can have that sort of break.
Yeah.
As much as I loved Hawkeye, which was just goofy fun, and bless you for bringing the Netflix, for basically saying, yes, the Netflix series exists.
Mm-hmm.
So there is a Kingpin. We know that there is a Daredevil. I can only hope for Jessica Jones sometime soon.
Mm-hmm.
I can just imagine Jessica Jones would have no time for Spider-Man's bullshit.
Yeah,
And I love Kristen Ritter as an actress. I could just imagine her giving that 1,000-yard stare to Tom Holland.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, I'm sorry.
No. Yeah, no. I mean, that's the thing. Like,
It's just that it seems like we are in this perpetual cycle where we just want the same thing. I mean, look at what happened with Ghostbusters, okay?
I still haven't seen it. I have no clue. Okay. I have no like. I don't even care if you spoil it. So okay. For me, so well, whatever.
I don't believe in spoiling much details, but it's not really much of a spoiler that the ghost of Harold Ramis is involved.
Yeah.
And for the most part, I guess I was okay with it, except in the third act where they actually used Harold Ramis's image.
Oh, no.
And that annoyed the crap out of me, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Harold Ramis did not want to be known as an actor.
Mm-hmm.
Harold Ramis's true passion was in writing and directing. That's why when he died, he's left money to found a scholarship at Second City for aspiring screenwriters.
Mm-hmm.
That's where he wanted his legacy to be. I think that them using his image like that is disrespectful to him in the extreme. And I know you can say, oh, well, they asked his family. They didn't ask him.
Well, I mean,
they didn't have they asked his family, and of course the family was like, oh, we get a little bit of money from this. Okay, sure. No. Leave dead people alone. There's a reason. There is a reason why Robin Williams had it in his will.
Mm-hmm.
That they cannot use, that no one can use his image or any of his recordings for new material.
Yeah.
Because after he died, they tried to make Disney, the general of the nostalgia weaponization complex, decided to make a live action Aladdin, and the original idea was they were going to use Robin Williams' voice tracks.
Oh no!
It's CGI.
Oh God! I still have not seen that movie, so. But
they couldn't do it because, of course, it was his will. You can't do that anymore.
Yo, Rockman, haven't seen you in a few millennia. Give me some tassel. Yeah, yo.
This is a company. By the way, guys, I know I get a lot of flack because I boycott Disney. I boycott Disney, and I steal what I have to. What I have to watch, I steal. That's right, I steal. Come get me, FCC. Not that anybody's gonna care. But the thing is, they don't care about you guys.
Yeah,
they care about inclusion, and they care about, because they will talk it seems like every year they have this thing where they're beating their chest going, we care about gay people. We have the first gay character in a Disney film in Beauty and the Beast. And yet it's the fact that character is gay is never mentioned. Granted by you, by the way, perhaps the best gay feature Disney ever produced was the original Little Mermaid, which is all about identity and trans rights and are. But and then they go, we had the first same-sex kiss in a Star Wars film. That if you could use a microscope and look real carefully, you could see in the background, but it's easy to cut out of the markets for those people who don't like homosexuality.
Mm-hmm.
And now recently, we had a multicultural cast for Eternals. Like, yeah, but you had you already had kind of a multicultural cast going on. You had different people, different ethnicities in your MCU. So shut up.
The thing with Eternals for me is I don't know the characters, so that means I don't give a shit about watching Eternals.
Well, the problem with Eternals is this. When Jack Kirby created Eternals, he explicitly wanted it to be separate from the Marvel Universe.
Mm-hmm.
Even the last 2 issues of the Eternals, where there is an appearance by the Hulk, it is referred to as a robot some students make to look like this cartoon character.
Mm-hmm.
The decision to make the Eternals part of the Marvel Universe was something that was made by people after Kirby had left. It was made by people like Mark Grunwald and Roy Thomas.
Mm-hmm.
The fact that the Eternals aren't supposed to be in the MCU, and the fact that, quite frankly, they're D-list characters, don't get me wrong. There are characters in the Eternals I like. I'm a big fan of Bob Harris, Steve Epting run of the Avengers, and Cersei was a major part of that run. So, I'm good with that. The Black Knight, the major part of that run, finished her.
Right.
But they were D-list characters. We're now getting to the point where we have these characters that people are not going to care much. And
yeah. It's people like me who only know the B and C list characters, who I mainly know the A list characters, and I'm more interested in those than characters they pull out of their butts. Not that they're pulling them out of their butts, not that they're doing that, but you know what I mean? Again, creating a live action Transformers movie in 2007 to get the mainstream into that franchise. If they didn't have somebody named Optimus Prime, and if they didn't get Peter Cullen at the time to be the voice, I don't think the Transformers live action movies would have brought the billions of dollars that they've brought since 2007. I don't know.
Okay, now I've lost my. Okay, we were talking about Marvel and such.
Eternals, yeah.
That really gets under my skin about the way Disney is handling Marvel right now. First off, Captain America.
Mm-hmm.
Falcon and Winter Soldier should have been a 2.5-hour movie. You could call it Captain American Legacy.
Mm-hmm.
And make it about who has the rights to be Captain America, okay? I think it would have done perfectly fine in the movie theaters. But no, the idea of a black Captain America scares Disney because they don't want to anger the alt-right. Let's be honest, they're not the alt-right anymore, they're the right. They don't want to anger them, so they shove it off onto Disney+. Arguably the most successful character Marvel had created in the last 20 years is Kamala Khan, Ms. Marvel. A wholly original character that has a very tangential connection to already existing IP.
Right.
She is Pakistani. She is Muslim. And she is incredibly popular. The book is a lot of fun, and they're afraid that she should have a movie before the Eternals.
Yeah,
but no, she's being shoved onto Disney Plus, and when she does come to the big screen, it's going to be as part of something called Marvels.
Yeah,
because they're afraid of calling it Captain Marvel 2.
Yeah.
Even though that's what it's supposed to be. See, as much as you want to say Disney is Disney is not progressive. Disney is just looking out, is saying what they think you want to hear. They're saying, "Oh well, we're doing multicultural casting on all these remakes," but they don't care about that. They just care about the fact that people are going to come and see these live action versions of the cartoons, which should have stayed fucking cartoons. I'm sorry. I mean, and big ups to Peter Dinklage for calling them out on their bullshit.
Yeah.
Big ups.
So the thing with Disney Plus and their series, no matter which, whether it's Marvel, Star Wars, whatever, I look at those as someone who does not like to leave the house. Right. I do, and I will if I absolutely have to, but generally I am at home. The last movie I saw in a theater before the pandemic even hit was a re-airing 30th or 35th anniversary thing of Transformers the movie when my wife was still alive. So, like, I used to love, you and I have talked about this at length, off air, on other shows, whatever. I used to love going to the theater. I used to love having the experience. Now, I want to be able to pause and go to the bathroom when the fuck I want to be able to do it. So when I look at something like WandaVision, Falcon and Winter, Hawkeye, whatever, I just, as you were talking there a minute ago, I went to Disney Plus, I went to the Falcon and Winter page. If you average out the times, the 6 episodes that they do have for potentially the first season, whatever, if it's a limited series and it doesn't get back, fine, whatever. It's basically 6 hours. It's basically 6 2-hour movies. Right.
There's a lot of stuff you could cut out.
Yeah, there is a lot of stuff you could cut out. I just like the format better, I guess. I don't know. Okay. Maybe it's just me.
As we said, like what you like, just don't be a dick about it. But and also I kind of like the format for Hawkeye because it had more of an episodic feel.
Yeah.
And I would not have a crush on Haley Steinfeld or be a big. I'm not a shipper for anybody. I'm shipping for only 2 couples right now. One of them is Kate Bishop and Yelena.
Yep.
So I know you're chummy with my mom, but I gotta say I didn't think you'd make the cut for the Christmas party.
Kate Bishop. I'm not here to ruin anything. I'm just going to kill Barton, have some appetizers, and then I'll go.
Well, I hope you enjoyed the bruschetta because it looks like you already lost him.
He's in the elevator.
Well, yeah, out of 65 floors, you think you're just going to magically guess which one he's on?
12th floor.
Damn it.
Enjoy the party. No, Kate, stay.
Ah.
No. What was that?
I don't know.
The other one is Batroc and the Black Cat, which actually happened, and it's. I don't understand why nobody picked it up.
You mean Batroc and Felicia Hardy Black Cat?
Yes. Black Cat issue number 9. I don't know which volume it is.
Okay, I'll have to research that later.
Felicia Hardy goes on a date with Batroc.
Wow.
And they are perfect together. They go and steal stuff. And she steals like this valuable piece of art, and he steals a blender for her because I know you don't drink much water, but maybe you could have a smoothie sometime. Smoothie is healthy.
Oh my God.
It is a brilliant issue. It is a brilliant issue, and it's funny because at the end of the issue they said, "Oh well, we're not going to keep in touch." I'm like, "No, you need to. You guys are perfect." And I'm not just saying this as the world's biggest Batroc stan, but
that's where they're getting you, though, Tom. They're getting you in the fact that they aren't going to keep in touch because she feels she has to either go back to a Morbius or a Parker.
Found you, Spider, at last.
No. Go forward. Go Gallic. But But yes, no. So those are the only two, and I loved the interplay between Hallie Steinfeld and Florence Pugh in that show, and I want to see more of those two together.
Yeah, absolutely. I completely agree. That was awesome.
I am constantly quoting you have to stop making me like you so much.
Yeah.
Line. The thing is that there's a couple of like things that have come into this perfect storm that has created the nostalgia weaponization process.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, by the way, Mike, and I'm not saying that you have that it is. But the nostalgia in earlier versions of basically the handbook for psychology was defined as an illness.
Well, I guess I'm on death's door then, because like I said,
the thing is anything, there are good things and bad things.
Yeah.
And the problem is we have now a lot of people have, and I think that God help me, as much as I love and respect Zack Snyder as a person and as a director, I do not love his fans.
Oh no, I don't want to. Yeah, that's
right. I'm going there.
That's a whole level of toxicity that, and the funny thing is, and I'm glad you actually brought that up, because a lot of this stuff that you see and other people see and whatever, like when I go on social media, I see posts from like 14 hours ago or 2 days ago or whatever, and I don't end up seeing the up to the minute what's going on now, or the fact that somebody got into an argument about who's the worst, I don't want to say lesser of two evils, because they are two evils, but I'm going to say this because of allegations and things that came out against these two people. But basically, you take a scale, Bill Cosby, Joss Whedon, you know what I mean? Like, I don't see any of that because I choose not to see any of that, because if I worried about all that stuff, if I paid attention to all that stuff and I was one of those Snyder fanboys, I didn't give a shit about Snyder Cut, no Snyder Cut. I didn't even give a shit about Justice League because I didn't give a shit about Ben Affleck as Batman.
Here's, by the way, a truth, people. There was no Snyder Cut. Most of what you saw in the Snyder Cut was reshot footage. Footage that he did not shoot or was abandoned and destroyed when he decided to step down from the project.
Right.
And he had to come back and reshoot a lot of this shit. So this is not the Snyder Cut. This is not how it was meant to look. Yeah. It is an approximation of how it was meant to look. You did not change the world by forcing Warner Brothers' hands. And you would think I would be sympathetic to these people because, of course, I'm part of Veronica Mars fandom, the TV series that literally will not die.
Yes, you are.
Back not once, but twice, damn it. You would think that I should be on your side, but I'm not, guys, because the way you bully, the way that you get down on James Gunn because he's doing a new Suicide Squad movie, which was better than the Air's Suicide Squad movie. I said it. The way that you're like still saying we should have the Snyderverse, we should keep the Snyderverse. Warner isn't doing that anymore. They're not doing a connected universe anymore. You understand that, right?
Warner's never did a connected universe to begin with. Yes. Okay, technically, I guess implying is fine. You're implying it. You didn't set out in 2006 or 2007 to create this roadmap. You didn't have the vision that this one Marvel person had to set.
I understand, yeah. Well, let's talk about Feige for a second here. Kevin Feige, when he produced Iron Man, the first Iron Man, which is still a great film.
Yes, it is.
The only real solid connective tissue was that post-credit sequence. Mm-hmm. So that way, if Iron Man had flopped, which it did not,
right,
Kevin Feige could just shrug his shoulders, well, we tried it, and move on.
Yep.
DC wanted to have a connected world, a DCEU, and yes, you can say that there's a direct line between Batman versus Superman to the Suicide Squad to Wonder Woman, back to Justice League and back again, but they didn't have a plan. Feige had a plan. He put out his feeler. He put out his bait to see if anyone bit. People bit. He said, okay, let's try something else then. And the idea was that's why we got Captain America. That's why we got Thor. The Hulk was already in production at that time.
Yeah.
And that's why we got the Avengers. And if the Avengers had failed, once again, Kevin Feige would have just shrugged and walked away.
Yeah. But see, the difference...
intent on creating a universe.
Yeah.
That they're not thinking about creating a good story for people to watch.
Yeah. And that's the thing. Like you just said, Iron Man could be a standalone film.
Yes.
So here's where I'm going to take this. Iron Man could be a standalone film. From the time I was 6 years old in 1986 to the time I was 16 years old in 1996, those 10 years, nobody ever sat in the movie theaters through the whole credits. Nobody ever did.
Right.
If any one person says to me, if any one person comments or gives me feedback, if I even get feedback on this episode, about I stayed through the whole credits, you're a fucking liar, because nobody ever used to stay through the credits. And there are. Go ahead. What?
Then you must be calling me a fucking liar.
Okay, well.
Because basically, as you know, my best friend in the whole world, may he rest in power. Derek and I did Better in the Dark 2007 through 2011, 2014, somewhere around there.
Yep.
But he and I had a discussion once where he said, I sit through the credits because these people spent their time too on this film, and they deserve at least a moment of acknowledgement.
And I agree with that.
And I put it like that. I said, that makes a lot of sense, Derek. And so I stayed to the end of the thing. But then again, Feige came up with this idea of let's put this little thing at the back. And now everybody has to have it.
Yeah, that's where I'm going. I would have to search my film library to see if I even could bring up the titles. I can remember maybe on my hand, maybe 2 to 3 movies that I have ever seen in my entire life before Iron Man came out that had anything after the credits or during a mid-credits.
Yeah. There's Ferris Bueller, of course.
Of course, yes. Yep.
There was a post-credit stinger in Tales from the Crypt Presents Demon Knight.
Demon Knight, yep.
Where the Crypt Keeper comes out and tells you to wait for his next film, Dead Easy, which never came out.
And I mean, I guess you could say that the entirety of the James Bond film franchise has a stinger about that he will return, but that really isn't staying and waiting for, Tony Stark to enter his house and
Back in the 70s, for us, that was a way to find out what the next movie was going to be called.
Right. Exactly.
Mid-70s, it was James Bond will return in For Your Eyes Only, or James Bond. So we're like, what's the next one? What's the next? Ooh, that was exactly. I wonder what that one's going to be about.
Exactly, yeah. But the whole thing the reason why I'm bringing this up is because now everybody expects something and everybody is waiting for something. That's why I think it's the first 4 or maybe the first 5 of any of the Marvel TV shows on WandaVision, there weren't we were waiting. I remember specifically watching WandaVision and 10-seconding it through every piece of those end credits to make sure I didn't miss something. But in general, overall, And even though I agree with you and Derek about, showing those people the respect and staying to the end, most people in theaters wanted to get up and go to the bathroom after 2 hours, or get up like, oh, a storm's coming, we got to get up and go home, which, by the way, as of this recording, most of the United States, at least in the winter regions, is being bombarded with snowmageddon. So everybody in a snowmageddon place, including yourself, sir, stay safe.
We are trying our best. Be safe. And while we're at it, test negative, stay positive, use common sense, wear your fucking masks.
Yep.
Don't let disinformation, get the vaccination. Don't let misinformation fool you. And anybody who says I'm not getting the vaccination or I'm not wearing a mask because I have personal rights. The only personal right you're exerting is the right to die. So shut the fuck up. I'm sorry. That makes me sick. You're probably going to have to title this show, I'm Not Here to Make Friends. It's the motto of every contestant on every reality show ever. I'm not here to make friends.
And my first thought is, we don't have friends in low places, folks.
The thing is, okay, since we're on the subject of Warner Brothers, we might as well get to the 3 hour the room out of the way.
Yes, The Batman, Matt Reeves' The Batman, starring Robert Pattinson.
And I have no problem with the casting. I have no problem with the director. What I do have a problem with is the property, which is, I'm sorry, I think Batman needs a little bit of a break.
So I've been thinking about this since you brought this to me, about how he is not an aspirational character. And I agree with you. He isn't. So here's the thing. How many everyday people, let's just take your history and my history, okay? So for me personally, I was born with cerebral palsy. I was born without a piece of my brain. When I was growing inside my mother's womb, my corpus callosum that separates the left and right hemispheres of my brain, it was never there. It is not there. I only found this out back in 2019 when I had to have brain surgery. So I have cerebral palsy. Number one, I can still walk, I can still whatever, but my right hand and foot turn in slightly. Those are really the only physical things that people can really tell the difference, unless I actually go through and tell them the whole story. Okay, number one, there ain't no way in hell I'm going to be Bruce Wayne Batman because I can't drive. Mainly because of the vision part of the brain damage. But, like, would I love to drive the Batmobile? Absolutely. Am I ever going to be able to drive any kind of car? No, not at all. So there's, one big thing. I am not physically, even if I was still at almost 42 years old, if I was still I wish I could go back to my 7-year-old self and say, don't stop eating cookies, eat vegetables the rest of your life. That way you won't turn into an old fat fuck. But I don't have the
back to my 7th grade self. I'd say, look, listen to that your parents are going to start bringing you to somebody called a therapist. Listen to that person.
Yeah.
Listen to that person. And don't be afraid of taking medication when they recommend it to you. Because I was made afraid by all this negative imagery of mental health on TV and in the movies. And I was afraid that if I got on medication, I would become dull, and I wouldn't be able to write, and I wouldn't be able to create, and I'd become like a zombie. And because of that,
eat brains.
Yeah, and because of that stupidity, I prevented myself from getting the help I needed for almost 50 years.
But you're getting it now, and you have been getting it for the longest time now that I've, now since you and I have known each other, you have accomplished so much. And I'm gonna put it in this way, folks. If you decide to go on to Audible or go on to their old website or whatever, and you listen to any of the first few episodes of Better in the Dark, that is a completely different Tom DJ I'm talking to right now, because back in 2007, 2008, 2009, yeah, exactly, you weren't, but you have been over the last X number of years, and while you still get passionate and angry about certain things, your angry passion now is not who the angry Tom was before.
Yeah, I'm embarrassed by angry Tom of 2007 to 2014. I am actually ashamed of him.
But that's part of your character that's part of your character, sir, that you have to live with, and you don't have to be. I'm sure at certain times you are burdened by the memory of it, but you don't let it burden yourself now, because you know you're not that person anymore.
There is a particular episode of Better in the Dark that Derek and I never referred to by name after it was broadcast.
Okay.
Because I went on such an angry Tom rant that it made me deeply ashamed, and I called them up the next day and said, we got to move away from this. I got to move away from this. This is not healthy. This is not good for the listeners. This is not good for me.
Yeah.
So, but anyway,
the whole point here is you and I have two totally different trajectories, two totally different ways of feeling like we can aspire to be a certain type of person. And Bruce Wayne Batman, and I'm gonna straight up belittle the character and just say poor little rich kid that his parents got murdered right in front of him. Neither one of us grew up rich.
Mm-hmm.
No idea what that's like and what pressures that comes with that type of lifestyle. Do we want to do the best we can to help society? Yes, absolutely. Do we feel like we need to dress up like a creature of the night and jump off the rooftops to do so? No, not at all.
As much as I dislike the Nolan trilogy, you got one thing right. You got one thing really right, which is in the third film, Batman going, wait a minute, I'm rich. I can do so much more for my city just by being rich.
Mm-hmm. So,
good on you, Christopher Nolan. I'm sorry that I don't like the rest of the films. But the thing is that Batman is constantly in our face. He's, we've got Batwoman on the CW, Capes and Weepies network. We've got a TV show about Alfred before he was Alfred.
I still have not ever seen Pennyworth.
We had a TV show about Batman before he was Batman, but not in an interesting way.
Yeah.
The idea of Bruce Wayne traveling the world and learning all this stuff and getting into adventures, that's a good series idea.
Yeah.
But having him hang around and be mopey in Gotham and meet characters, here's the guy who's going to be the Penguin. Which you realize that if you follow that logic, all of his villains are geriatrics by the time he becomes Batman.
Yeah.
But anyway, but the thing is, it's like if you look at DC has like 8 books a month now devoted to the Batman.
Yeah.
This is Kevin Conroy, and I am the goddamn Batman.
We are overexposing him and overexposing a certain type of him, which is another thing that we seem to forget, which is Batman is one of those characters like Superman, like Spider-Man, where they've been around so long, there have been so many different versions of him that every version is valid. So if I wanted to be a fan of the 66 Batman, I could be.
Yep.
I should not be pilloried for that.
Exactly, yeah.
It seems like DC just goes, okay, so Nolan wasn't dark enough. Let's do Ben Affleck and he actually kills people. Okay, that's not good enough. let's do Matt Reeves and turn the Riddler, my favorite Joker, my favorite Batman villain, into a serial killer, which he was not.
Yeah,
Let's go darker and darker and darker. Guys, here's an idea. Instead of just going darker, why don't you try another road?
Yeah. I think that...
And the thing is, guys, also, don't say that only Matt Reeves' Batman counts, or that only Christopher Nolan's Batman counts. Because all of them count.
Yeah, so this is some...
Norm Breyfogle, it's the Norm Breyfogle / Alan Grant Batman. That's my Batman.
Absolutely.
And I'm down with that Batman. But I acknowledge that there's also people who like Grant Morrison's Batman and, the original Bill Finger being forced into servitude by Bob Kane Batman. They're all valid.
Yeah.
But don't tell me that we have to go darker more and that now the Riddler is a serial killer. And don't make your film 3 hours, man. Oh, God. I understand. Here's an idea. If you all that money you put into a 3-hour Batman, you could have that budget and have a 90-minute Batman movie, and then you could make another movie featuring another character that's 90 minutes. Because you're putting all your money into the one pot and making these 3-hour monstrosities, you're first off, it becomes a slog. I don't care how much you love a property. You can tell in the MCU's the parts where they're just dancing, just trying to move on.
Yeah.
And a film that's 3 hours long should earn its runtime. And generally, action movies don't earn a runtime more than 2 hours. But yeah, that's just I'm sorry, that's just unacceptable. But and as far as I'm concerned, with Batman the character, he's overexposed. I think that if maybe they took him off TV and movies for 5 years before making a new movie, let the excitement build up, let the desire to see Batman build up. Because how are we going to miss something if he's never gone?
See, this is the thing of where we were 40 years ago versus where we are now.
Right.
Okay.
Okay, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
You take 1984.
Mm-hmm.
I'm gonna give you 4 years here. You take 1984, 1987, 1984, and 1989.
Right.
1984, Ghostbusters and Beverly Hills Cop came out.
Mm-hmm.
Neither one of those films, original films that released in theaters and then came to physical media, whatever, neither of them back then ever said anything about a sequel. Neither of them were setting up a universe and blah, 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 blah.
Yes. In fact, I will quote Bill Murray circa 1985 when he said, if we end up making Ghostbusters 2, people should just shoot us. Okay, back in 1985, nobody wanted it. Nobody wanted to make a Ghostbusters 2. And from what I understand, nobody wanted to make Ghostbusters Afterlife either, but there was a lot of pressure put on them.
Yeah, that's a whole other thing. Yeah. So you take 1984 to 1987. 1984, you had Beverly Hills Cop. 1987, you had, what is my favorite, is Beverly Hills Cop 2. Only because I was a child back then. My mother let me watch anything I would want to. I didn't see Cop 2 until like 88, 89, whenever. Because remember, folks, back in the 80s, it took at least 6 months to a year and a half from theater to VHS, Betamax,
right,
Laserdisc, whatever you want to call the media of that day. So I saw Beverly Hills Cop 2 when I was, I want to say, 8 or 9. And I didn't understand that I was a kid. I was just there to laugh at the car crashes and stuff because car crashes were cool at the time, for a 9-year-old. They're not, but they are. It's a whole, So
have you ever seen the original Smokey and the Bandit?
I'm gonna say no because I don't remember, but I might have.
The glorious thing about Smokey and the Bandit is it's basically about an hour and 45-minute long pie fight. Only cars are the pies.
Okay, I might have. Yeah,
that's entertaining. It is. Yeah, nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with. No, my mother loves the Fast and the Furious films, but she doesn't love them for their deep mythology.
No,
she loves them because she wants to see people doing stupid things in cars.
Exactly. Yes.
I'm hearing all this chatter. Did you just take out a bank?
So my point in all of this is that from 84 to 87, that's 3 years. That's 3 years between theatrical releases of a original movie and a sequel. Same thing with Ghostbusters and Ghostbusters 2. It was 5 years more than 3. But the point is there was usually a 2 to 3 to 4 year gap between films. You look at the last decade, from 2010 to 2020 or 2022, whatever you want to say. We had, I'm trying to think of something that isn't Marvel that. Okay, Iron Man was 2008.
Right.
Iron Man 2 was 2010. So technically, okay, that's technically 2 years from release to release. But everything else nowadays, we are like on the edge of our seats with any movie, not just Marvel, but with when's the next one? When's the next one? Will there be you and I recorded an episode of a different show here on GCRN called 2009 where we talked about Gunpowder Milkshake and the Protege.
Right.
And we agreed we would like to see a sequel to the Protege. However, we said in that episode that we understand that it is a standalone film. It does not need a sequel, whereas I believe at some point, unless information has changed, I have not looked it up as we're talking here, I believe Gunpowder Milkshake is supposed to get a sequel, and I believe at the time we were like, why? It was okay.
But
it wasn't.
That was a film that was more obsessed with creating a world.
True.
Creating a property.
Yeah.
Rather than telling a good story. And as much as I love the actresses involved, I felt that it didn't justify it. It didn't tell us a story that justified us wanting to return to this world.
Yep. So my thing with Batman, I agree with you. And I've said this before and I don't say this to be disrespectful, but I've said this before this whole thing happened. Where the whole argument of Black Lives Matter, all lives matter. Okay, I'm not even gonna whatever. Black Lives Matter. Period. End of story. But I have been saying what you have also been saying is that every generation of whatever version of the thing that you like, all of that matters. Just because Christopher Nolan rebooted it and did something new with it does not mean you can't go back and laugh your ass off at Arnold Schwarzenegger in a freeze suit, even though it was stupid as hell. Like, it doesn't replace what already come before it. So my thing with the Batman, I don't like the Riddler as a serial killer on basis. Without seeing it, I don't like that. I don't like the look of the character. But seeing the trailers, seeing how I want to say it's more red than dark because it's very crimson red and like the posters, And I think the reason why this film is happening now is because the Batman film world needs a 1989 kick in the teeth like what happened in 1989 with the Tim Burton movie. Like, Batman on film needs something more. And I think, I don't know.
Let's go back to 1989 for a second.
Sure.
Okay. The reason Batman took everybody by surprise was because we hadn't seen Batman.
Right.
We've seen him occasionally on television because they were two Hanna-Barbera lensed pilots for a live action Super Friends show.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think we saw a Back to the Batcave, which was a TV series, a TV show about Adam West and Burt Ward teaming up to do something.
Right.
We hadn't seen a live action Batman on a regular basis in over 15 years.
Yeah.
Over 25 years, actually. Because, let's see, 67. Yeah, about 20 plus years.
Yeah.
So we looked at it and go, hey, we missed this character. This character is cool. What else you got? The thing is that this reboot is coming so, because remember, if it wasn't for the pandemic, we would have seen this in 2020.
True.
If it wasn't for this reboot is coming so fast on the heels of the last reboot.
See, I don't know what it is, but I don't feel that way because the last reboot to me was 2012.
Okay, you're talking about you're see. I think that Batman v Superman was more of a Batman film than a Superman film.
Right. Yeah, I agree with that.
So that's 2016.
Well, okay, yes, you're right. You are right. It was 2016. Here's my thing, and this is a long-running joke with me here on my podcast network, is that I remember specifically watching stuff at Comic-Con 2011 or 2012 saying, oh, by the way, Batman v Superman is coming. It's coming. It's coming. We promise it's coming.
Well, that's another problem, which is that the whole aggressive hype machine.
Yeah.
Where we are supposedly, we're kind of bullied by the studios into doing their work for them by teasing things out far too early in advance. And I think because we have had Robert Pattinson, Matt Reeves, Batman in our head in some form or another since about 2018.
Right.
It has been in our head because Warner Brothers won't let you forget it. And it's almost going to be a relief when that comes out.
Yeah.
And here's okay. Let me get to the aspirational figure part.
Okay.
Okay. And to just like you use context, my context is I suffer from mental illness. I had bipolar type B all my life, and I have something called explosive mood disorder, and that was Angry Tom.
Right.
To the point where I now refer to him as that other guy.
Right.
So Batman is a person who has a child, suffered a tremendous trauma.
Right.
He saw his parents killed in front of him. He had the worst case of PTSD, and on top of that, was now responsible for the Wayne fortune.
Right.
He has never, ever, even though Leslie Tompkins kind of took care of him for a while, and even though he had a therapist during the Alan Grant, Norm Breyfogle run for a while, who turned out to become a member of Checkmate. He's never addressed his post-traumatic, his PTSD.
Yeah.
He has never, instead, he has taken all this money that he has been given and put it into this revenge fantasy and gets dressed up and beats up other people just as ill as he is instead of dealing with his own hurt.
Right.
And yeah, I said it, guys. I said it. This is not this is not like Superman. You know, for Superman is the immigrant experience.
Yep.
No matter how much people who wear the red hats of stupidity want to say otherwise, Superman is about the immigrant experience. It's about somebody coming from far away to our country and going up to us and going, "Hey, thanks a lot for giving me a home.
Yeah.
Here's what I can do for you. How can I help you in return?"
Yeah.
That's Superman. That's why Superman can question United States policies when they're wrong.
Yeah.
Which people don't like because they think Superman, like Captain America, should be. Hell, Captain America, damn well right, he should be questioned. He should question stuff. And Mark Grunwald made one of his masterpieces because he got tired of people saying, "Why doesn't Cap kill?" The whole Cap No More arc was just because he got so many letters from people asking them to let Cap kill. And it's like, no, Cap would not kill.
Yeah, no.
Cap is America in that he is the embodiment of the second chance.
Exactly.
And as such, if he encounters a villain and defeats him, he's going to treat them with respect and and he's not going to kill them. He's going to send them off into the penal system, which back in 1960 we thought was for rehabilitation. He's going to try to find a way to redirect their anger. Right. This is a man who took 3 supervillains who, after all of his friends in the Avengers left, agreed to take under his wing 3 known criminals and turned them into some of the greatest heroes who ever lived.
Yeah.
It's like I've always said, the thing about Steve Rogers is he will always give you a fair shake.
Yep.
He has the right to say, "I don't believe in what you're saying," but he will always give a fair chance.
Yep.
He is not a killer.
Yeah,
we have people who think the Punisher is an aspirational figure, where even the Punisher says, "I'm not an aspirational figure," you know?
Yep.
Tom Berenthal saying, "Fuck you all, take my symbol off your fucking pick-em-up trucks."
Yeah, that's just...
Once again, much props for John Berenthal for speaking the truth.
Yeah, absolutely.
But anyway, continue. I'm sorry.
I've always felt that, okay, same thing. I can't relate to Dick Grayson's origin, like circus boy becomes sidekick. I can't relate to that, but Dick Grayson has characteristics that I feel are more in line with how I feel. Like, for me, like you were saying earlier, it all comes down to your moral compass and how on point or skewered your moral compass is. You know, do I wish I could win the lottery? Absolutely. Am I going to go out and rob a bank because I need to, pay my rent? Hell no. I know the difference between right and wrong. And I've always said that Batman is a legend that no one will ever or should ever live up to, because Batman is the character that is so fucked up, and like you've already said, didn't really look into his own mental health. I mean, I kind of get the main point of it, where it's like, oh, my parents got murdered, and I'm going to quote, I believe it's
make sure no other child has to go through this again.
So it's basically Kevin Conroy's version in, one of the DC animated universe TV series.
You grabbed power, and with that power, we've made a world where no 8-year-old boy will ever lose his parents because of some punk with a gun.
Right.
Or whatever kind of thing. So I get that part of it, but the rest of it, Batman too mentally fucked up for anyone to want to aspire to be. If I wanted to aspire to be that fucked up, I wouldn't be a podcaster. I'd be in a mental institution crawling up the walls with the rest of the spider people.
I mean, let's be honest. You shouldn't be like. I know that there are like some people who will say, "Oh, but I look at Batman as being the only sane person in an insane world."
No,
in an insane world.
I mean, I agree that the world is insane, but he is. I would say Barbara Gordon would be the most sane person in an insane world, but that's just me.
Actually, one of the things I like about the Dick Grayson, Bruce Wayne dynamic, as they started developing it in the 80s and 90s, and resulting in one of my favorite moments in the Grant Morrison run, which is when Dick took over the mantle and Damian was Robin. Is that he was a counterweight. Dick was the person that kept him grounded.
Yep.
Dick was the person who made sure he didn't cross that line. And it worked when he was Batman and Damian was Robin, because it was the inverse. Whereas you had this kid who was basically told to kill from a little bitty baby. And you had Dick going, no, let me show you how it's really done. And let's have fun doing this.
Yeah.
And showing him another way of living. And that's one of the things I liked about that particular run. But I don't hate Batman. I just don't understand why. I think that he needs to, just like the Daleks in Doctor Who. I don't want to see the Daleks every fucking year. Thank you very much. They don't become threatening. Whereas back in the 70s, where you had an epic 6-episode serial called Genesis of the Daleks, and then we didn't see them again for like 5 years.
Right.
And it's like, so when they came back, it was a big fucking deal.
Yeah.
It's okay to let things rest, people. It's okay also to acknowledge that some things are finite, that maybe there shouldn't be a fourth Matrix film. That maybe those first 3 Star Wars movies were kind of fine on their own.
Yeah.
It's just that, and if you're going to let them grow, you've got to let them grow. You can't say, when Rian Johnson comes up with these new ideas and these new directions we can go, no, we don't want that. We don't like the fact that Luke Skywalker doubted himself. He's a human being. Of course he would doubt himself.
I doubt myself every day as a 41, almost 42-year-old person, and I am nobody.
Implies that, Luke Skywalker is a normal person who is embarrassed by the fact that he's expected to be this icon, and is not proud of everything he did.
Yeah,
that's real life, people.
Yeah.
He's not supposed to be some godly creature, but we had to have. I mean, remember that idiot who was trying to get a petition together to remake The Last Jedi?
Yes. I saw that like for a half a second. I read like 2 lines about that story, and I'm like, nope. Don't even. Just, it's going to be, whatever is made is going to be made, and we as fans, we should approach it like, maybe with some, like, okay, you hear I'm just going to use it as an example. I'm not trying to harp on this. Right now, we only have the premise. We don't have the full plot of the Batman. During his second year of fighting crime, Batman pursues the Riddler, a serial killer who targets elite Gotham City citizens. He uncovers corruption that connects his own family during the investigation and is forced to make new allies to catch the Riddler and bring the corrupt to justice. Okay, that's a premise of what this movie is going to be. Might that change, or had that changed throughout any of that, production or whatever? Who knows? Whatever. We've seen trailers. We've seen whatever. The thing of it is the story could always change. Mm-hmm. However, we, the fans, we, the people who may or may not want to watch this, we shouldn't, go to any creator and say, "Oh, I'm not going to be your fan unless you change it to the way I want it, or unless you put." Huh?
A long time ago, there was a series of books by a writer named Gregory McDonald, based on a character, a newspaper reporter called Fletch, and they made 2 films about the character. With Chevy Chase.
Yep.
In, I think, the very late 80s, early 90s.
Yes. Fletch and Fletch Lives.
Right. Now, there was a time when McDonald was being interviewed, and they asked him, how did you feel about the way they ruined your books? And McDonald said, they haven't ruined my books. They're right up there.
Yeah.
Here's the thing, guys. If something comes out from a franchise, first off, you have permission to stop loving a franchise. I know it's hard. I know that the way that the pop culture machine is going now is to make so that you are not just identifying with your favorite brands. You are your favorite brands. But it is possible to say, this is like I did with the new Doctor Who around 2013, and I said, "This is obviously not for me," and I walked away. I still love Doctor Who, but I recognize that New Who is not for me. It is okay to have said after The Last Jedi, "Okay, this is not for me," and walk away.
Yeah.
But no, you don't want to walk away. You want to hold your childhood to your chest. And there's nothing wrong with being a child. What's the point of being grown up if you can't act childish every once in a while?
Exactly.
But you have the permission to leave a franchise behind, and you have a permission to say, okay, that entry didn't work for me, so I'm going to kind of not pretend it doesn't exist.
Yeah.
It's
like, 9 years ago now. 9 years ago, in, I think it was episode 19, one of my early episodes of my comic book podcast, The Pull Bag, my buddy Ryan and I reviewed Fraction's Hawkeye.
Mm-hmm.
Back then, 9 years ago in 2013, I wasn't really feeling it because the way it was said to me, or the way that I understood it was supposed to be, was Hawkeye on his day off away from the Avengers kind of thing. And I just wasn't, I had a negative opinion about the book. I just didn't like it. X number of years later, I am rereading it and I am enjoying it. Maybe that's because I enjoy the Disney Plus series. I don't know.
That's another thing. Yeah, you might not like it right now,
but that doesn't mean you're not going to like it in the future.
Doesn't mean you're going to appreciate it. You're not going to appreciate it in the future. Exactly. Yep. Exactly. I don't like Star Trek, but we did an episode of Better in the Dark where I looked at all the Star Trek movies, and you know what? I gained a respect for that franchise. I learned to appreciate things about that franchise by taking that journey with Derek.
Yeah.
And the thing is, I remember watching Star Trek The Motion Picture when I was a kid, and watching it in 2011 and having very different opinions of that film.
Yeah, and
if
it's
you're
something.
angry about something now, you don't have. Just don't pay attention to it. If you feel like coming back to it every once, after a couple of years, come back. Maybe you'll have a new appreciation. Don't start immediately trying to kick things out.
Yeah. I am one of those people who, and it's just the way I grew up, I guess. My mom smoked all my life. She smoked cigarettes. That's all when she was younger, before she had me, I'm sure she did other things. But after I was born, during my lifetime, my mother smoked her cigarettes her entire life. I never, ever wanted to smoke cigarettes. When I was a kid in the 80s, we had, the DARE program and all of that and everything else, and Just Say No to Drugs and McGruff the Crime Dog and everything else. I have never, ever smoked a cigarette or anything. Have I had alcohol? Yes. However, I do not drink alcohol on a regular basis. I don't even drink it when I go out half the time, if I go out half the time. Like, alcohol and I just don't. It's just not my thing. So the whole reason why I'm saying this is because you grow up that way, in a certain way that you are, it's ingrained at you that this isn't your thing. This isn't specifically to drugs and alcohol. But my point is, because I was not into all of that, most of the time I'm not going to be into a show based around drugs or alcohol. And it took me 3 different watch-throughs to actually understand and enjoy Breaking Bad.
1, 2.
This is my own private domicile, and I will not be harassed, bitch.
Okay.
Because initially my thought was, oh, he's just, at least in the first season, he's just making meth to make meth. I know it's also to do other things, and I've done whole podcasts about this and whatever, but that was my initial thought, and I'm just like, whatever. And then I went, again, going to the whole thing that we're talking about here, where as people, we can change our minds.
Yes.
Not everyone is against new code.
That we express, which is that things that are living evolve.
Mm-hmm.
They evolve emotionally. They evolve mentally. And if they're around long enough, they evolve physically. When I was born, it was still acceptable to separate people by race in large portions of this country.
Mm-hmm.
It was, there was a lot of evolution between the time I was born and now. The problem with a lot of people today is that they want to erase that evolution. And because it's like, that's why, for example, for some reason we have a geriocracy in our government. We have where theoretically, like if we had put term limits in the Senate and Congress, we would always have new ideas coming in, new ways to grow our society. Instead of the same people who've been there for 20, 30, 40 years who just care about keeping their seats and being rich and fat babies. I said it. But my point being, we have to allow anything, if we want it to thrive, to progress.
Yep.
It is the nature of life. You don't get stuck as a baby when you come out of the womb. You progress and become a toddler. Then you become a child. Then you become a preteen. Then you become a teen. The same goes for intellectual properties. Some things deserve to be retired after a while, and some things need to leave the stage to make room for the next generation thing.
It's funny you frame it in the wording of retire, because I just saw a news article this morning that everyone's favorite quarterback is supposedly going to be announcing his retirement from Tampa Bay.
Oh, may I just say, I thought about you earlier this month. I did. I thought about you earlier this month when I was watching the Patriots.
Oh yeah,
playoff game, and I'm remembering the last time you and I had a discussion about football, and I said I did not envy you. And somebody actually said we should try to convince Tom Brady to come here to the Jets. I'm like, no, I don't want his ass. I don't want his ass anywhere stinking up the joint. Him and his Giselle Bundchen stinking crotch. I'm sorry.
My God.
That is true.
Have I told you? I think I've told you about this. There is a 2004 film called Taxi.
Yes.
It's with Queen Latifah, Jimmy Fallon, and Giselle. Yeah, and Giselle Bundchen plays one of the bad. You and I have to watch. I almost want us to do a running, live commentary watching that movie, because seriously, not that I want. I'm very happy that you are past the other guy, but I kind of want the other guy to come out about the Giselle Bundchen character in that movie, because
against Giselle Bundchen, I'm sure she's a nice person. It just so happens she's married to a jerk.
Oh God!
There is to it. You're married to a cheating jerk, and I don't know what you're like. You could be just as much of a jerk as he is. You could be a nice person, but you are definitely married to a jerk.
Yes.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Going back to your retirement thing and things, I will put it in the way that Master Splinter put it in the Turtles, strike hard and fade away without a trace.
Right.
I was looking up Fletch because I wanted to remember Fletch and Fletch Lives and whatever. In the main Wikipedia article for Fletch, it says the legacy and history of the franchise, even though there were only 2 films.
There were only 2 films. There was a 3rd film in development for a while.
It's been in development hell. Yeah, it's been in development hell since 1995 with Mallrats.
That was supposed to be Kevin Smith.
Right. The most recent thing on here for Wikipedia, and it does cite, what does it cite? It cites, Boston.com. John Hamm is filming a reboot of Fletch around Boston. In July of 2020, it was announced that a reboot was back on at Miramax. Actor John Hamm is spearheading the project as both star and producer, with Greg Mottola set to direct.
Well, Miramax needs something to distract them. that they were run for most of their lives by 2 vile sex pests.
Yes, I don't even remember half of Miramax's. I remember Ben Affleck or Matt Damon making a joke about Miramax in one of their films, but I don't remember.
Well, my favorite thing to remind people of is, as much as we give her flack now, and rightfully so, because she's a little bit out there, Courtney Love, right back in the 90s when she wrote Celebrity Skin, which was basically her way of saying, stay away from these guys.
Yeah.
Which is why it felt so weird having that song at the end of Captain Marvel.
Yes. Yeah.
I'm hearing this song and I'm like, you don't know what the song is about, do you?
No.
It was just like, well, it's a female-led vocal and it's really upbeat. Yeah, but it's a dark song.
Yeah, very dark.
Very dark.
So just looking at this and I'm like, wow, okay, now I remember just looking at their major film series, Hellraiser, Children of the Corn, 3 Colors, The Crow, View Askew Universe. Okay, I remember Miramax now.
Yeah. This was a pretty big,
Yeah.
Barak and the Weinstein group were a big indie player particularly in the 90s, the 80s and the 90s.
Yeah.
And it just so happened, when Rose McGowan started talking about things, I'm like, I'm not surprised, dear.
Mm-hmm.
And now I understand why there never was that Barbarella that they were planning for you to be doing with Roberto Rodriguez.
Yep.
Which I would love. I don't know about anybody else. I would I'm down for that. I love me some Rose McGowan, but yeah, I'm glad that people are speaking out against slime.
Yeah.
You should be allowed to speak out against slime.
Yes, yes,
whether it's the Weinstein brothers or Josh Whedon or just be careful. Don't just start calling people slime when there's no reason to call them slime.
Yeah.
Just be careful. Make sure you have the evidence.
Yes.
And poor Josh Whedon. Okay, here's the thing. It's like, we're giving you a chance to put your side of the story. I think he wanted to destroy his career. I honestly think he wanted to dynamite that bridge.
I don't know. I don't know. I can't speak for the man. I can only speak because for me, and I've said that again, for those of you who are listening to the sound of my voice, I have said this for the past 14 years that I have been podcasting. I have always been attached to the fictional worlds and enjoying what is created versus the, paying attention. Because, again, growing up when we grew up.
Well, it's a hard thing separating the artist from the art.
Yeah.
And for me, I was very much into Buffy fandom back when Buffy was on the air first run.
Yep.
I was part of one of the of a very, very early Buffy kind of Usenet group, and wrote on their website. And I had the entire 7 seasons on DVD.
Yep.
And back in 2013, I went to revisit them and do the whole thing.
Mm-hmm.
And watching them from a bit of a distance, I felt really uncomfortable.
Yeah. I was never... Buffy was what?
1999, 2006, I think.
Okay. So I was never I know this is going to sound silly, but it's only because I saw it on cable at the time. Mm-hmm. I was Christy Swanson Buffy. I was Pee Wee Herman Vampire Buffy, and it was just a one-off.
I saw that film in the theaters, though.
Wow.
Yes,
folks, we are old here. But my point is, I only saw Buffy up until I want to say it was the end of the 2nd season or the end of the 3rd season. Whenever they graduate high school, whenever the graduation 2-parter was. Okay.
Best chase villain they ever had in The Mayor.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
The Mayor was amazing. The 4th season, I did not care for it all very much. The 5th season, I liked, but I think they should have ended it at the 5th season. Because the 5th season, it ended with Buffy dying, and the last shot is of her tombstone saying, "Here lies Buffy Summers. She saved the world a lot." And I'm like, that's a perfect coda.
Yeah, that's a perfect ending. I only watched it to the end of the 3rd season.
Mm-hmm.
So Faith was there because it was the whole Faith thing through the 3rd season. Angel was still there, and then the whole reason why I stopped watching it after the 3rd season was because Buffy and her friends supposedly graduated high school and they saved the world, and then I followed the man because I love Angel. I I was so annoyed with Cordelia throughout the first 3 seasons of Buffy. However, when she showed up on Angel and that, I was like, okay, I can deal with you. I'm good.
And also, when you look at it now, given what we know Charisma Carpenter going through.
Yes, that's a whole other, yeah.
And, bunch of props to her for being as professional as she could be.
Yes, absolutely.
Given what she went through.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I felt uncomfortable watching it back in 2012, and I ended up selling off my 7 volumes because I felt there was something wrong. I found it very weird that it was always the women who had to die.
Right.
Whenever they wanted to make a major statement, they killed off another female character.
Yeah.
And that made me uncomfortable. And now that this is all coming out, and I remember being slightly uncomfortable watching Dollhouse.
Where my Joss Whedonism begins and ends is whatever he did with Marvel, which was Avengers, and whatever other Avengers things. And
Avengers to Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Right.
Yeah. So for me, where it begins and ends with Joss Whedon is Avengers and Angel. I never went past Angel.
Right.
So I've never seen Dollhouse. Yeah.
I watched some of Firefly, did not enjoy it at all. That's right. I said it. I thought it was boring and stupid and sexist. Watched Dollhouse more because of Elijah Dushku than anything. Not even Elijah. Oh, what was her name? There was the Australian actress.
Not Olivia Dabo.
No. There was obviously Elijah Dushku was the star. You had
in Dollhouse.
There was an Australian actress who was a blonde and had kind of Asian features. Yeah. I'm going to have to figure this out because now it's stuck in my head. She showed up in an episode of Torchwood, the last season of Torchwood, which was awful. And she ended up having her basically they tried to kill her by having her neck broken.
Uh-huh.
And the last time we see her is the character and her head is like switched around to the back as she's trying to get away.
What is the character name?
Oh, I don't remember. The character's name.
Is it Sierra?
It might be Sierra. Because she's another.
I'm trying to research this so we can figure this out.
Because there are because 3 of the female characters are other Dollhouse people.
Right.
The Olivia, what's her name, is the administrator.
Can you see my screen?
Jackson Ackman. Yes.
Okay.
Yes, that's who she is. I like her.
But yes, it is.
Jackson Ackman. She's Australian, but I think you can.
She was born in Kathmandu to a Tibetan mother and an Australian father.
Right. And the funny thing is that they made her have an American accent throughout, except when they did the episode of her backstory, and she started speaking with her normal accent. I'm like, I think she's better with the normal accent. I like her accent. But yes, I like Deitch and Lackman quite a bit. But anyway, enough. I am a horny old man. I know this.
Hey, you know what? As evil as she was, I cannot get over Olivia as Nicole Wallace in Criminal Intent. Because that accent, holy crap.
Oh. Well, part of the reason I crush so hard on Karen Gillan and always have is because she has that Scottish accent, that thick Scottish accent.
Yep.
And it's one of the reasons I love Shirley Manson from Garbage. Beside being a great vocalist, she's a redhead from Scotland with a thick Scottish accent. Yep. I have I have a very narrow fetish for some reason.
He has a very specific type, folks, and that's okay because we all do.
You're a redhead with a thick Scottish accent. No, sorry.
I'm gonna have to start charging you a dating service podcast fee.
Wait, where were we? We've gone far.
I know. And the funny thing is, where this has ended up being kind of, I want to take it to a slightly different place. So my ex-wife is what I actually have to call her due to the government listening in and whatever if they do. Because I've told this story before, and I think I've told you off air.
Yeah,
due to Social Security and all of that, Karen and I had to get divorced in 2019. It is what it is, whatever. But anyway, she passed away in November of 2021 unexpectedly. And there are a lot of media items that I have watched or listened to or liked my entire life that I look at in a whole new way now that she is no longer here anymore. There are, literally, it happened about a month ago. I was in the shower. I had some music playing, and one of my favorite songs from one of my favorite bands popped up.
Mm-hmm.
I had to basically brace myself against the shower wall from falling over crying because the song made me think of my deceased wife kind of thing. And there are so many things I am seeing in various pieces of media that I've enjoyed over the years now. Like, you take 2000, and it's only because it's you, Tom.
Yeah. You
take 2001 Serendipity with John Cusack and Kate Beckinsale.
Yes.
I look at that and I'm like, yeah, I wish I had another serendipitous moment with, anyway.
I went to that restaurant once. It was a Serendipity. I've had the frozen hot chocolate.
Is it good? I assume it would be.
They don't fuck around. Big ass. It's practically a bowl.
Yeah.
But it's a big ass glass.
Yep.
So anyway.
But it's one of those things where certain things now hit me because it's still so, it hasn't even been a year since she passed, so it's only been a few months. And so certain things now hit me in a much different way than they would have hit me before. And it's just way too emotionally, you want to talk about mental health. Mm-hmm. And I've always said if I need to take medication, I will take medication. I've always said that I just need to be by myself kind of thing. It's not that I'm not taking care of my mental health. It's just that when I'm on whatever medication that was prescribed in the past, it made me felt like you were saying earlier, how you thought it was going to make you just feel lethargic and not necessarily yourself anymore. And that's in the past how it's made me feel and whatever. And I more so have to push all of the emotions down because I have to deal with my living situation or a lack thereof. I have to figure out what the hell is going on in my life before. Have I grieved since she passed? Yes, I absolutely have. I've cried more in the last 4 to 5 months than I have in the entire 42 years I've been on this damn planet. Mm-hmm. But it just when I see certain things and whatever, even though we only had 4 years together, mm-hmm. it just hits me completely different now.
Right.
I don't know. It's just a thing. So let's see. Not that we're going to be here for go ahead. What?
Okay. There was one more major element because I know we're already on 2 hours.
It's okay.
But there's one more. But we knew we were going to be talking for a while.
Oh yeah, of course we did.
There's one more major thing that's been ticking me off lately.
Okay.
It's one sentence. Why can't you let people enjoy things? This has been used on me a couple of times lately. Most recently when I made a comment about how I was not surprised that the live-action Cowboy Bebop, which I thought should never have been made, got canceled after one season.
Mm-hmm.
And my feeling about that was that Cowboy, which is my third favorite TV show of all time, not just cartoon, not just anime, television program of all time. Number 3 behind the British Avengers series from the 60s and Crime Story from the 80s. Okay, is that I felt that it was something that was created in a very unique circumstance in a very specific medium.
Yep.
And it would not translate to another medium. I mean, this was a show where literally episodes were being made right up to their release date.
Yeah.
They were literally finishing episodes and then sending them off to the network for air back in Japan when it was first aired. So there's a certain fluidity to it and a certain a certain kind of attitude towards it that's very unique, and more importantly, it is a complete story. It ends definitively. There's no way our main character is coming back after that. So trying to convert it from, and there are characters that are very distinctly using anime conventions in their body language and their design that would not translate to live action. And so trying to take this finite story that is based a lot on improvisational jazz and it has all these different elements of noir and science fiction and retrofuturism all mixed together, and it would not work trying to make it into an open-ended TV series in live action.
Yeah,
which it didn't. But when I mentioned that, I'm not surprised when I said, I'm not surprised it got canceled. I got, why can't you let people enjoy things?
Well, so did you enjoy it? Did you enjoy what you saw of the Netflix Cowboy Bebop, or did you not enjoy it?
I did not enjoy it.
Okay.
Okay, you want to know? Okay, I'm going to tell you some reasons, people, why I did not enjoy.
Okay, but wait a second. Hang on.
Okay.
So you're saying what you said, and then this person is saying to you, why won't you let people enjoy things?
Yes.
That
what they're saying is, shut the fuck up.
That to me is like me telling you or telling anyone that I am a fan of Scrappy Doo because Scrappy Doo gave me the courage to stand up to certain things in my younger youth and my younger life. Does that take away your enjoyment of Shaggy and Scooby stuffing their faces running from ghosts? No, it shouldn't.
No, here's the thing. Once this comes back to the fact that I think the nostalgia weaponizing complex has kind of brainwashed us into, instead of identifying with, using the love of something in pop culture as something that enhances us. They've convinced us that it's what defines us. So you can't just like Star Wars. You have to live Star Wars.
No,
you can't, because when somebody doesn't go into lockstep with you and says, I didn't like that thing, like I did with What If. What If was really poor.
I am the Watcher. I am your guide through these vast new realities. Follow me and ponder the question, what if?
You and I are going to, it's okay, but you and I are going to disagree on that. So let's.
There were great episodes, but overall, I love the first episode, the Captain Carter episode, but then again, I seriously stand for Haley Atwell as that character.
Yes.
I really kind of liked the episode with Doctor Strange, which just showed you how dark things could get.
Yep.
However, it was also the first time I said, uh-oh. This is good. This is an overarching narrative.
It turned into that, and I kind of liked that. However, as of this recording,
right?
Sadly for me, because I know you're probably not going to jump up and down for joy, but sadly for me, they have removed What If from the 2022 slate. So I don't know if we are going to get that second season that we were probably going to get.
And well, that's a surprise. I didn't know that. I thought they were going to protect the season.
They were supposed to. Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with the idea of an anthology set in the MCU along the lines of the anthology that we had for many years in the Marvel Comics universe, as opposed to the cinematic universe. It's just that by making it a linear story, and there were certain episodes I thought were just uninteresting. I thought that the Black Panther has Star-Lord episode was a little too self-congratulatory. I really hated the Thor comedy episode. And as someone who just does not like zombies, I did not care for the Marvel Zombies episode.
Okay, I will sort of agree with you with that, because the simple fact that I was never a fan of the Marvel Zombies thing, the comic thing. However, because of it being the MCU, I didn't not dislike it. I didn't love it. I'm still not because in general I'm not a zombie person at all. Like I'm just not my thing. So, but
like the murder mystery they did,
with
some killing off the Avengers, where I was like, I wasn't sure what to make of it.
Yeah.
But the thing is, they made it into when in episode 6 we had the Watcher throwing punches at Ultimate Ultron.
Yep.
I was like, you've lost what makes this series interesting. It is not about people punching each other. It's about exploring paths not taken.
Yeah.
And so, but anyway, that was another one where I got, why don't you let people enjoy things?
And again, go ahead.
At no point do I say you. In fact, there have been several times today where you said something that you like something that I don't. But what do I say? What have I said? Like what you like, but don't be a dick.
Yeah, and I'm not being a dick about any of it. I don't think. I mean,
guys, even if somebody gets in your face and says that they hate your favorite franchise, that does not in any way invalidate.
And it doesn't affect me if that's their emotion about my favorite franchise or that's their problem. That's not my problem.
Much the same way I tell you all, get rid of guilty pleasure from your language. You like something, you fucking like it. You stand up for it. You hold it to your breast. You proudly show your love of that thing.
Yep.
It is absolutely acceptable. It is more than positive for you to say this thing is not good, but I love it. There are films where I will hold up and say they're terrible, but they're fun to watch, and if there's something exciting and there's a definite sense of what the fuckery to it, that makes it a really interesting and exhilarating watch. So when somebody says to me, when I say I didn't like this Star Wars thing, or I didn't like the Cowboy Bebop live action, and I will tell you, if you want me, I will tell you for why I didn't like.
Sure.
Okay. First off, they took two characters in the original that were used very sparingly. Vicious, who was like the main villain, Cowboy Bebop, and Julia, who is kind of like this lost love of Spike's.
Okay.
And they're used very sparingly. And as such, in the original, Vicious is kind of a force of nature. You get scared when you realize Vicious is around.
Okay.
They made them into regular characters.
And I think, again, Cowboy Bebop, the original anime or the original the original context of the was pointed towards a certain audience base, whereas a lot of these Netflix things, it's kind of like the Transformers live action stuff. Right. That's to try to get the every person, the everyday mainstream audience to see if it can make money.
Yeah,
and that's
look, come back to that point.
Yep.
Major studios are not doing Cowboy Bebop the TV series or Men in Black International, or I'm trying to think of another recent attempt, or like the Halloween Kills trilogy, because they love this property so much.
Yeah.
They're doing it because they think they can convince you to put more money into their coffers. That's all.
Yeah, and I just want to say this briefly because I think it goes back to your idea of having Batman go away for 5 years or so.
Mm-hmm.
I honestly think there would be no DC Comics left in 5 years if Batman went away, because sadly he is their biggest seller.
Well, remember, you remember Darwin Cook, right?
Yep.
Darwin Cook, amazing artist.
Yep.
And storyteller. Yep. Very stylized, very 1950s style artwork. Darren Cook was always, and I kind of agree with him on this, a proponent of what the big two need to do is stop everything, stop the continuity's dead,
and
then start from the beginning again.
Yeah.
And in fact, the reason why Darwin Cook didn't work for Marvel outside of a handful of stories for Spider-Man titles is because he brought this pitch to Axel Alonso for a subgroup, basically an imprint called Marvel Adventures. And the idea was they would start from it would be all ages. It would start from zero again, and it would be entry point comics.
Mm-hmm.
And Axel Alonso then said, "Okay, get to work on this, Darwin," and then went ahead and did it himself.
Oh no!
Yes, Axel Alonso's a jerk.
Yeah.
I never liked Axel Alonso, and the same goes for some of his buddies, like Brian. If my HBO went out, I have nothing to write about Azzarello. There's a deep cut.
Yeah. Oh boy.
Yeah. So Darwin, I think though there's some wisdom to that idea.
Yeah.
Because if the problem that they are saying is the problem that the Marvels and the DCs are saying is the problem, which is that there's so much continuity. People don't know how to start. It's like, sure, give them that was the idea behind the Ultimate line until that went totally bugfuck.
Yeah, it did.
It went totally, it's like, oh, well, part of that is Mark Millar's fault, who is also a jerk. Mark Millar, and it's sad because I used to be a Mark Millar champion because he wrote some exceptional Superman comics in the 90s.
Yep. That
showed to me that he understood Superman very well. And so I defended him. And then he goes and starts doing things like, oh yeah, Quicksilver and Scarlet Witch, they're totally fucked. We don't know that.
Okay.
His comic. We don't want to have the president stripped naked on the White House lawn in our supposedly all ages comic. Yeah.
Yeah. No.
Yeah. No. But anyway, we're getting off.
Yes. Oh Lord. Yeah.
You're saying let people enjoy stuff when you're. It's one thing if you're referring to an obscure little film, like if somebody came up me and attacked The Return of Captain Invincible.
Okay.
Really insane superhero musical featuring Alan Arkin and Christopher Lee, set in Australia, which is not good at any level. But I love it unconditionally. It's very racist, but I love it unconditionally. If somebody got in my face about that, and I said, just let people enjoy stuff, it's different, because that's something. But when I'm talking about Marvel, the present Marvel Cinematic Universe stuff, or I'm talking about Star Wars, or I'm talking about that Star Trek has become under Alex Kurtzman. Fuck you, Alex Kurtzman.
I think my buddy Steve Megatron, who is the co-creator of the GCRN, would probably agree with you at this point on that point, because that Star Trek universe stuff that's going on, that's not Star Trek for Steve is the diehard Trekkie. I am on the outskirts, hanging by a thread on the edge, because I grew up as a kid watching Next Generation. I watched DS9. I watched some of these things. I've tried to watch the classic show. The classic show is not my bag, but it is what it is, and that's fine. But man, some of the things that Star Trek has produced lately in the last 5 years or so.
My mother is a hardcore Trekkie. In that she watched the original show on NBC when it was coming out. She had the biggest crush on Spock.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
She loved Star Trek, and she watched The Next Generation, and she watched Space Nine, and she watched Voyager, and she watched Enterprise. She got halfway through the first season of Discovery, and then basically put the box set she bought onto the to be resold bin, and saying, "That's not for me." However, she loved the Orville.
Yeah, everybody loves the Orville.
Orville's great. The Orville's great. And you just have to ignore all the fart jokes.
Yep.
Because it's actually good science. It's what Star Trek is supposed to be, which is hard science fiction that deals with social issues.
Yeah.
And what we're getting with the Kurtzman stuff is action poo.
Yeah.
That's what they should call it. They shouldn't call it Star Trek. They should call it Star Poo. That's right, I said it. Come at me. And this from somebody who would gladly make himself a slave to Michelle Yeoh, who loves Michelle Yeoh so much. I can't watch it. Even though, in my mind, one of the greatest female action movie stars of all time that I love watching everything is in it.
And that's not even enough to,
Nope.
So if his greatest female action star of all time, actress isn't enough to make him watch it, then is it really that great?
Yeah, no. I don't know. It's just that's why I wanted to see Gunpowder Milkshake so much, because it's Michelle Yeoh, and it's Angela Bassett, and it's Carla Gugino, and it's Karen Gillan, and it's not Leah Remini.
Oh God, I just had the article pulled up. Anyway,
Connor Chronicles.
Linda Hamilton.
Not Linda Hamilton. She was also in 300, and she. Anyway. 5 female action stars.
Lena Headey.
That's right, Lena Headey. Yeah. 5 female stars who can handle an action extremely well.
Yeah.
And I was still dissatisfied with it. But that's okay. You liked it, but it's that's cool.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is our
I could maybe I could maybe make you look at it in a different light, but you still can like it. You don't have to say to me, just let people enjoy stuff. Like what you like. Don't be a dick about it.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, too much of fandom these days has forgotten that second half of that statement.
Like somebody, I don't know. If somebody comes out and says something about something I like, I'll look at it and be like, okay, that's your opinion. I cannot waste my time being a keyboard warrior, giving them every reason why they are incorrect in that feeling. I gave that up a long time ago because it's not like. And this isn't just geek issues, folks. It's also everyday.
Well, that's the thing. They're counting on you getting so involved with the pop culture issue that you're not going to notice the real issue, where our lives are being threatened. So do not fall for their trap. They are counting on the fact that we're going to be so much more interested in who's going to be playing who in the MCU X-Men than what's going on with the infrastructure bill or what's going on with voting rights.
Yeah.
Things that impact on you personally.
Yeah. I mean,
what you like and love it to death. Wear the t-shirt. I go out in public with Cowboy Bebop face masks on.
Right. Yep.
Because I love this thing and I'm not ashamed of it.
Yep.
But don't let your love of it distract you from real-time issues that are endangering it.
Yeah.
And don't act as a gatekeeper, because if you want your fandom to survive, you need new people to come in. You can't say, "Oh, you can't do. You don't know that." It's like you think it's bad here in geek culture. Try being a music nerd.
Oh no, I'm on the outskirts of that too a little bit, and I see, I have seen and I do see, and it's just. Okay, I'll put it to you this way. Try being a music nerd who actually has, for the last 20-something years, at least since 2000, loved Nickelback and all of the shit.
But I respect you. You're right. Seriously. And I was talking to somebody earlier today, and they sent me a picture of themselves, and in the background was a Taylor Swift poster, and I made a joke about Taylor Swift, and she said, "I really love her." I said, "And I respect your right to love her." I have very conflicted opinions about her, but you get something positive out of listening to her, so I am 100% behind you liking her.
Yeah,
I can dislike something in your fandom and still wish you well, and
exactly,
and appreciate that you are getting positive energies out of that.
Yeah.
I'm not, when I say, I didn't Rise of the Skywalker was bad, it was just retrogressive, I'm not attacking you personally.
Yeah.
And if you loved Rise of Skywalker, or you loved Afterlife, Ghostbusters Afterlife, which we touched upon briefly, and it just worries me in the future that we're going to have more people being raised from the dead without their permission. I mean, the fact that, for example, apparently George Romero wrote something on the back of an envelope about a movie called Road to the Dead, and they're trying to develop it into a movie. No!
Oh, God, that's...
Yes. There's a reason why things end. There's a reason why we end. Nothing is supposed to be forever.
Yeah.
You know, it's like well, for God's sakes, Wes Craven. Craven did this film that he felt very passionately about.
Yep.
Called Nightmare on Elm Street.
And now Freddy won't die.
He only wanted to make the one film.
Yep.
So New Line said, well, we're going to make a sequel without you. And they made a sequel without him. And then they said, and then Wes said, can I come back and finish it? And they said, sure, Wes, you can finish it. And he made Dream Warriors. He wrote the script, and he had Chuck Russell, who's a great director, direct it. And he thought that was the end of it. But no, because that film made so much money, they made more. And then they made Freddy's Dead.
Which, only because it is the least amount of horror in a film, is the only reason why I enjoy Freddy's Dead. Because I saw the first Nightmare on Elm Street. As a kid, it freaked me the hell out. But, you know, it is what it is.
Wes made a third film in the series, which was The New Nightmare, which I adore, as kind of a coda, as kind of a epitaph.
Yep.
He never wanted Freddy Krueger to survive beyond that first picture. He resisted putting that last scene in the film. And yet, the moment he died, his estate started accepting outlines for a new Friday the film. And Wes Craven made 2 Scream films and oversaw the third, and that was it for him. Until Dimension said, "We are going to make one without you, or we're going to reboot this franchise that you created and made lots of money for us, whether or not." So Wes said, instead of doing a reboot, would you like a new version, a new
thing? Yeah.
A new episode in the series. And the thing that's wonderful about Scream 4 is basically Wes Craven and Kevin Williamson going, yeah, fuck y'all.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Reboots suck. It's them ranting at the camera. And it's a damn good film.
Yeah.
In addition, but once again, he dies.
Yeah. So I am looking at the film franchise of Nightmare, and I do not I was not expecting to see any directors that I would know on any of these sequels.
Incorrect. Yeah.
But literally, other than Wes Craven, which obviously he's the dude, I don't know any of these other, even the one that I like, I don't even know her. I've never heard of her, ever.
Let me go through some of these guys. Jack Shoulder, who did Freddy's Revenge.
Yep.
Excellent director. Amazingly excellent director. Perhaps best known for a science fiction film called The Hidden with Kyle MacLachlan and Michael Nouri. But he's primarily known as an action director.
Okay.
Third was done by Chuck Russell. Chuck Russell went on to do, of course, one of my favorite horror film remakes of all time, 1988's The Blob.
Yep.
Which I prefer over the original.
Oh, he directed The Mask in 94 and Eraser in 96. Okay, I don't know him, but I know his work. Okay.
Oh, his work. Yes. So he's comfortable. He's
okay.
Rennie Harlan, who did Fear.
Oh, of course.
Yes.
Barely. Okay, yeah, I know Rennie.
Rennie Harlan still works today. Rennie Harlan directed a film with, of all people, Johnny Knoxville and Jackie Chan.
Yes, he did.
Which not very good, but
oh, that's why. Okay, I mean, I'm looking at his work and I recognize things like, obviously Die Hard 2 and Cliffhanger and Speechless and Cutthroat Island. It isn't until I scroll down to 2001 and I'm like, oh right, that's why. Driven with Stallone. I know everyone doesn't.
Yeah.
Either people don't know about 2001's Driven or they hate it.
Yeah. But, then after Rennie Harlan, I forget who did 5. But I know 6
was Stephen Hopkins.
Oh, Stephen Hopkins. Stephen Hopkins, Australian director.
Yep.
Also directed Predator 2.
He was the second unit director on Highlander in '86.
Yes.
Let's see. Did Predator 2? Oh, he did Blown Away in '94. Okay. Yeah.
The other interesting thing I want to point out about Rennie Harlan, by the way, he was, I think, the second unit director on a film called Roar. Are you familiar with Roar?
I don't think so.
Roar is supposed to be a comedy.
Okay.
It is actually one of the scariest films ever made. Because it is a comedy about a bunch of a family that lives on a wildlife preserve of lions. And they shot at a real preserve with real lions. Melanie Griffith had her face ripped off.
What year did this come out?
This was made in the very late 70s, very early 80s.
Oh, okay.
So, but Rennie Harlan actually almost had his scalp taken off.
Ooh, dang!
And it is a very. It was meant to be a comedy. It was meant to promote wildlife conservation, but it is terrifying because so many people. Who was it? Tippi Hedren, the star.
Yep.
Had her leg broken. By an elephant.
Yikes.
So yeah, but anyway, enough of that digression. Rachel Talalay, who did episode 6.
6. Yep.
So she did two more theatrical films, one of which is actually really good, called Tank Girl.
Yep.
And she also did a film called Ghost in the Machine. She is now perhaps best known for being one of the more prolific directors on the new Doctor Who.
Oh, very cool.
So these people all have, in their own ways, interesting CVs.
Yeah, it's just that, okay, looking at their names, though, okay, maybe, I was a little out of it on Rennie Harlan because there are plenty of things that I remember him from. But just looking at all of these other names, like, they're foreign to me. And then I look at what they've done, and I'm like, oh, okay, I know their work. Again, it goes back to the whole thing of, I know this song from this band, but I don't know who the lead singer. You know what I mean? That whole kind of separation of whatever.
Whereas I'm a bit of a music nerd, so generally, if I know a band, if I'm fanatical about a band, I know the members. I know. Yeah. But even I can say sometimes that like, for example, Fountains of Wayne is my favorite band, and I expect most people to look at me with a blank face when I say that. Other people to say, the Stacey's mom thing.
That's the first thing I was going to say.
I want to snap their butt. Because it's one of these things that they wrote they wrote 5 albums over their 20-year. Their lead, their main songwriter and bassist, Adam Schlesinger, made a career out of writing power pop songs for the movies.
Yep.
That Thing You Do.
Yep.
That song is his. Half of the songs for the Josie and the Pussycats movie, which is amazing, people, and I will fight you on it. Once again, I love it. I'm not calling it a guilty pleasure. It is a pleasure.
Yeah, exactly.
It is a pleasure to watch, and I will fight you if you try to get in my face about that.
Oh no.
What?
Wow. That's right. I remember that now. He died last year from COVID.
One of the first celebrities to die of COVID.
Oh my God.
Okay? But the thing, I'm not going, even if you say.
Yeah.
And it's one of these things where it's like, okay, we understand that Stacey's Mom was their biggest mainstream hit, but he did so much more in his life.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same thing with there are other bands like that where they have one song that really sticks out, but they've done so much more. But no, Fountains of Wayne, they are an amazing group. They were local boys. They were from Wayne, New Jersey. That's why the band is named that. But a lot of their songs are about the New York, New Jersey area. So
wait a minute. His cousin is John Bernthal? Seriously?
That's reason not to mess with the Fountains.
Adam Schlesinger's cousin is the Punisher.
Yes.
That's cool.
So, but yeah, and I encourage people, if you like power pop, to explore them. But I'm not going to.
Yeah.
The Stacey's Mom guy. Even though that hurts me.
See, me, okay. So yes, I agree with you. For me, it's a more like the whole Stacey's Mom thing is. Oh, that's Fountains of Wayne. That's the band. That's not. It's like if someone said to me, 1986 is Three Hearts and the Happy Ending Machine is a Daryl Hall and John Oates album. No, they went their separate ways. Right. Daryl did his own thing. John has done his own thing. You know, so that's how I look at that. I don't look at if I hear Fountains of...
The fact that in his way, even though he hasn't made a lot of noise about it, Ringo may be the most successful Beatle post-Beatles.
Yeah. I mean...
We look at John and Paul as the big stars, but the people who did the most with the fame that they got are Ringo and George. Whereas George became, a film producer and did. But anyway, enough about the Beatles. You can hear about the Beatles on other podcasts. But when are we going to talk about Fountains of Wayne or? I'm sure that there's other bands I could bring up.
Yeah, I think it's just one of those things that with Fountains of Wayne, and when that came out, it was
Here's another band where most people will go, oh, it's that one song, the band that did that one song. And they're a lot more complex than that, which is the Bare Naked Ladies.
Oh, of course.
Who I saw in a tiny, tiny radio studio one morning when they were promoting their first album, Gordon, way back when.
Yep.
And the percussionist was using their suitcase.
Yeah.
So, okay, Bare Naked Ladies. Most people will just go, oh, yeah, it's the China Chicken song. That song was from their fourth album.
Yes, it was.
And they did 2 more albums after that before they kicked Stephen Price out.
Yes, they did.
And for doing coke in Disneyland.
Yeah.
There is a definite sea change between the Stephen Price Bare Naked Ladies, which is kind of dark, which is funny, but also very dark and bitter. And I mean, one of my favorite songs of theirs is called Pinch Me, which is about depression.
Yeah.
Which, even though they tried to put it as like, it's 1 week too. No, it's a song about how it feels to be depressed when you feel so dead inside, but you can't communicate it to other people. And when Stephen Price left, and Ed Robinson took over as head songwriter and vocalist, there is a definite change, and all of the albums since then I haven't liked.
Yeah.
Because it's much more pop, like folk pop, and that dark edge has disappeared.
Yeah.
I'm not going to say to people, who like the Ed Robinson stuff, you're stupid for doing that. No, it's just, in my opinion, as somebody who was with them from their very first single in America, Grade 9. Their very first single in America. I love that single.
Yeah.
From squeezing myself into a tiny little radio studio at 6:30 a.m. so that I could see them perform acoustically live, and they performed Brian Wilson, and that was like the first time I ever heard Brian Wilson.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, I just think that they had to evolve, and unfortunately, they involved something that I didn't like. That's what happens sometimes.
The sad thing is that most of their... Oh, God, really?
Yeah.
Wow. They have only had one number one hit.
Which is 1 week, yeah.
In the U.S., which is 1 week, which is weird because I could have sworn Pinch Me got up higher. It got to...
Pinch Me got a big push because it was the lead off of the next album, Maroon.
Yep.
But... And they had a big video.
Yeah.
But it didn't chart well. It was the only real. We remember Bare Naked Ladies primarily for 1 week. Some people will remember it for It's Been and Done, because that was the theme song for a short-lived TV show called Baby Blues.
Yep.
And people will also remember them for The Big Bang Theory.
It's what I was just gonna say. I as I'm looking through this, so you look at the Big Bang Theory 2007. Okay, so the 2000s, 2007.
Yeah.
You look at the 90s and the 2000s. You had two bands doing a theme song for two very different TV shows that everybody remembers, which is the Rembrandts for the Friends theme song and Bare Naked Ladies for Big Bang.
Mm-hmm.
It's just crazy, folks. And that's why I like having these 2 hours with Tom or 3 hours with Tom or whatever we're going to call this thing.
I still think you should call it I'm Not Here to Make Friends. But no, the thing about Bare Naked Ladies is that the point I was making is that people only know them as the white Canadian guys who rapped about Chinese chicken. But they have this depth. I think there's something like they have albums in the double digits at this point.
Yeah.
And the first 7 of them, I think, the basically up until they parted ways with Stephen Price, are amazing albums filled with lots of great. I mean, one of my favorite songs of theirs is called "The Old Apartment," which is dark as all hell. It's another one about mental illness, and but yeah, you could dive in there and for a long time, and don't just think that everything. A lot of times we have these bands that have this one hit, and they think that everything that they do is that one hit, when it's not.
Yeah.
I mean, okay, to go on the opposite end of the spectrum, Deep Blue Something.
Oh, Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah. Which is one of the most obnoxious songs ever. Breakfast at Tiffany's is the equivalent of being cornered by some boring guy at a party who is proceeding to tell you an anecdote that goes nowhere.
Yeah.
And it's an annoying, but the thing is, Deep Blue Something was a blues rock outfit.
Yep.
So everything on their album that wasn't Breakfast at Tiffany's sounded nothing like Breakfast at Tiffany's.
Yeah.
And that's why they did not have another hit.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
and that song was used in almost everything.
Well, that's why we have the curse of the Imagine Dragons right now. Imagine Dragons is making music not for us, but for the ad agencies.
Yeah.
And some of that stuff, it makes. Although the worst song I've heard of recently, it's a cover. Have you heard Rit Momney's cover of "Put Your Records On"?
No, I have not.
I swear, I don't know if Corinne Bailey Ray owes him money or ran over his dog, but it sounds like this guy from Utah. That's I guess this guy from Utah actively hates her because he takes everything that is good and pleasant. I mean, that is a pleasant song.
Yeah.
Hey, put your records on. And it's a song about being happy with yourself and reaching out to others to spread your positivity to other people and showing support for other people, because it's a song sung by a black woman to another black woman.
Right.
Right? So this white Mormon decides to remake it. He turns it into a trap beat. He changes the pitch several times, chops up the chorus. It's actively painful to listen to. And the first time I heard it, I didn't even realize it was a cover of "Put Your Records On" until he actually said the line.
Wow.
Because he is a white Mormon singing a song about a black woman showing solidarity with another black woman. There are certain lines, like when the song quotes Bob Marley, or when the singer says, "I dig." When Rit Momney sings, I love that Afro hairdo, it sounds like he's creeping on the girl.
Oh Lord, yeah, that's not.
It's like he's creeping on the girl, and I'm sorry, but it's like you should not. I'm sure you're a nice person, Rit Momney. That's not his real name, but that's the only name I know him by.
Yep.
But you should not have tried to quote "Three Little Birds" by Bob Marley.
Good Lord. It's not. God. Well,
Welcome
I
to
guess.
The music podcast.
Yeah, I mean, I guess the only other thing left to say in this episode, folks, is as a society, we're fucked.
Yeah. No, this society is literally dissolving around us. And
I don't like that. I don't like that it is. Like, what happened to
I'm sorry.
No, I was just gonna say, like, what happened to the whole thing of, coming together as a people to lift each other up? And I know that's a hokey positive thing, but
you know what? I defend your right to say hokey positive things. There's nothing wrong with being positive, people.
No, there isn't, but at the same time,
there's nothing wrong with being angry and motivated to try and change things.
Yes.
And that started with you, and we're not just talking about going to the voting booth. Get involved on the local level. Message your senators and your congressmen. Let them hold them accountable as they would hold you accountable if you were cleaning their house.
Exactly.
You are one person screaming, shouting in the middle of a field. He's a little nuts. So nobody will talk. 2 people, they're having a conversation. But 3 people, it's a movement.
That's right.
We need more movements, people. So let me, as my final message, just say, get involved. Get involved. Your choices matter.
Yep.
We cannot let what almost happened on January 6th happen again.
Yeah.
And the only way we can prevent that from happening is to be involved ourselves. They're counting on us to sit back on happy babies, giggling over the 3rd Star Trek series from Paramount Plus in a month. Don't let them win.
Yeah, it just... Yeah, and I remember it's so funny you're saying message your Congress. It's not funny that you're saying this. It's ironic that you're saying this because as much as I prefer to pay for my entertainment without commercials, I remember as a kid seeing all these commercials about all these things. Write your congressman, call your congress people, do this, do that, speak up, speak this, speak that. And
people are counting on you to be willfully. The people
ignorant.
in power are counting on you not to care. That's why they encourage things like Disney buying up everything that doesn't have two legs. That's why they're encouraging this pop culture war, this whole woke culture bullshit is bullshit to distract you from what they really are doing, which is they're trying to strip mine this country raw.
Yeah.
Get involved. That is the only thing I can tell you. If it's, like I said, even if it's going to your local, like I have an office of my local assemblyman, city assemblyman, up the block. I go up there and I talk, and I stay in touch. We have the rights to quote. I think it was Aaron Burr. The people should not be afraid of their government. Government should be afraid of their people.
Yep.
And they're counting on us being too afraid to speak up.
There's a way to do what you're saying to do without something like what happened, that happened, at the Capitol.
Ooh. Technical difficulties. Let's move on, shall we?
Entertainment, folks. It's all about the entertainment because we are here to entertain you.
Listen to some Fountains of Wayne.
There you go.
Not Stacey's mom. And you know what? If you like horror, watch *Malignant*. That was a great film. I love that film. And read *The Immortal Hulk*, which just finished, because it's a really good series.
Who is that written by and drawn by?
Ewing and I don't remember who the artist is, but Al Ewing is the writer.
Okay.
It's very kind of body horror. So if you're kind of turned off by body horror, you might want to be careful with it. But it's a great. There is stuff out there, and find what you love and love it.
Yep.
But don't let them blind with sparkly things.
Master Bruce, Miss Gordon, I see you've discovered our little secret. Yes, I admit it. I am Batman.
Especially if they're pointy, folks. All right, Tom, where can the people find your other content online?
I am, of course, part of the rotating co-host for Dread Media, Des Reddick's Canadian podcast on all things horror. We are coming up on Folklore February this month, where we're going to be doing all sorts of folklore horror film. Including one I saw that I really liked called Eyes of Fire from the 80s. And if you go over to True Freaks, you can, myself and great Chris Honeywell are still doing the Honeywell Experiment, where we discuss independent and grindhouse films of the 50s through to the 90s. And the February's episode is about Nude on the Moon. A landmark nudie cutie film directed by Doris Wishman, who is one of the earliest female directors in Hollywood. And also, ATW, Octagon Theater Works. We are finishing up season 3 of Prince of Paradise. We've got some more goodies, and we're including got spaghetti westerns.
Yep.
We got a spaghetti western called Bullets Don't Argue coming up.
Poets don't argue?
Don't argue.
Okay, cool.
Western, and we've got a horror show called Doom Asylum, and we've got, of course, The Amazing Adventures by Lean Thorne, freelance lab assistant, which is, as somebody once described it, it's like Doctor Who, only we're following the companion instead of the doctor. Yeah. It's like so there's lots of goodies if you like audio drama, and be sure to visit us at atw.blogspot.com, and if you have some ideas, let us know, because we're always open to other people's ideas. And of course, listen to Fountains of Wayne and the Stephen Price.
Yes.
And Stephen Price also has some great solo albums too. But
all right, folks, I think that's going to do it with this 2 hours with Tom. I don't know what's coming up next after this, folks.
And remember, I want to once again remind people, you come to me.
Right.
I don't like anything I said, you come to me. Leave Mike out of it. I got Mike's back. So don't go harassing Mike thinking that I won't know. I don't know, and I'll come for you.
I am at TFG1Mike on Twitter.
And I'm bringing the rest of the Fountains of Wayne with me.
So all of Stacy's daughters.
Yeah. Well, technically, the film is Stacy's mom.
I know.
Okay. Well, that's true. It's been 20. So Stacy may, in fact, have some daughters.
Oh, God. I'm losing it, folks. Go to Twitter, go to Facebook, go to geekcastradio.com. Listen to our stuff. Come back next time, because I don't know what's going to happen next time. Unleash the geek in you, and we will catch you next time.
Good night, everybody.
I am not going to say that again. That's embarrassing.